Some blouse patterns have a separate button band. The pattern I'm making at the moment is like that, and I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm having a search through my bag of interfacing to find some interfacing that is suitable. I prefer to use sew-in interfacing because iron-on can sometimes bubble after being washed. The pattern piece here says to cut out 2 pieces of interfacing, so each side needs to be interfaced. And this is the interfacing I've selected. It's nice and soft and got a nice drape, so it's not going to feel too stiff along the length of the button band. I'm using some hand stitches to put the interfacing in place. I've hand tacked both pieces together, and you can see the 2 pieces are securely pieced together there. Both button band pieces are now interfaced and we're ready to start sewing the button bands. The pattern instructions state to fold over the unnotched edge by 5/8 of an inch and press. So I'll pop some pins in just to keep that fold at the correct measurement before I go to press it in place. I'm pressing that folded edge over now and gradually pulling the pins out as I go along. And now the pattern asks for the pressed over edge to be trimmed. Just cut off about 2/8 of an inch, so what's left over folded is about 3/8 of an inch. There is a notch along one long edge, so I'm going to mark that with a pin. It'll just help me down the line. The pattern is asking to fold right sides together along the fold line. Upon checking the pattern piece, I can see the fold line is indicated here and it's dead across the centre. I can see how that will fold over on the button band going forward. I'm folding the button band over and I'm using the pattern piece as a guide to make sure that fold is in the correct place. And then mark that with pins because I will then go to the machine to stitch the end. But first repeat the process with the other button band. I'm marking the notch with a pin, folding right sides together, checking the fold is the correct width, and pinning that in place across the end. So both sides should mirror each other. Don't you always wonder where your foot pedal's gone? So it's quite a short seam just across the end of each of these button bands. Here you can see the 2 small seams that have been stitched there. The seams need trimming. Snip that little excess off and just trim the corner as well. And do the same on the other piece as well. Snipping to reduce bulk. And then we need to turn each piece out the right way. A little pointy tool can be useful here. This is one that's specifically for helping turn corners. But you can use a chopstick or sometimes the tip of my scissors, I'll use that as well. Something pointy just to make sure that's a nice sharp point. And then do the same with the other piece to match. Now we need to pin the front bands to the front of the blouse. So I'll get the blouse that's been resting on my mannequin. Right, let's find the right bit. This is one front piece. I'll get the corresponding button band and make sure I've got the right piece. So the notch will match the notch and the seam we've just done will go to the hem of the blouse. And then pin along the length of this seam, making sure it is right sides to right sides. At the hem edge, the button band fold there needs to just match the fold of the hem that was completed earlier. And I'm securing that here with a pin ready for when I sew it together. And again, there are 2 button bands, so we'll do exactly the same with the other side. I'm matching the notch up here and then I'll pin everything in place. I'm just matching up the end of the button band to the neck edge too. Everything is pinned in place, ready to stitch along here. At the hem end, make sure to pull the button band out of the way so you're not going to be stitching over it. and then complete the seams. This is showing you one of the completed seams, and you can see the button band when we fold it over. We now need to trim this seam. Trimming the seam does reduce bulk on the finished seam afterwards. To create a flatter seam, first trim the top layer fairly close to the stitching, like I'm doing here, and then the second layer of the seam, trim that one just a little bit deeper than the one before. If you're discovering some useful tips here, please do hit the like button, as this helps YouTube send this video to people who are interested in the same subjects as you. So this seam is now nicely trimmed, ready to be pressed, and I need to press the seam over towards the button band. I'm making sure everything's going to be in the right position before I press it, and then press that seam over towards the button band, ready for the next stage. I'm folding the button band over to the wrong side, the edge of the button band to the stitching, and I shall press that into place as well. Time to thread a sewing needle, because it's a little bit of hand sewing required now. The button band needs to be folded over because we're going to be sewing along here. I'll attach the thread at the end, and then I'm working slip stitch. I'm working the little catch stitch within the stitching line, therefore it won't show on the right side of the garment. The slip stitching goes up the total length of the button band, and this secures everything in place, ready for top stitching if you wish to do it afterwards. So everything's completed there, and the button band is looking nice and secure. The tacking threads are still in position, but they can be removed as they've done their job. I always find this quite a satisfying job to remove the tacking threads. And along the front as well, they can all go. It's time to do edge stitching along the button band. You can buy top stitching feet for your sewing machine, but what I do is I like to look at a point on my foot and line that up with the edge of the area that I'm going to stitch. And then as I'm sewing, I will follow that by eye along the length of the area that I'm going to be sewing. There's no need to rush doing this, take your time and go steady. The pattern calls for edge stitching along the seam line and also along the folded edge. I'm making sure that both lines of stitching are of a uniform width. So here's the two lines of stitching, and it's all nice and encased back and front. And here are the finished button bands ready to complete the rest of the shirt.